Hey Fixers, I'm Dr. Jeanette Benigas, one of the co-founders of FIRST SLP. Our platform exists to discuss the biggest challenges that are currently holding back the field of speech-language pathology. We present the issues with facts and invite you to be a part of joining this movement to make things better one conversation at a time. So let's fix SLP. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Jeanette and Preston. We have a super exciting episode today. We're going to be talking to a few people from Arkansas. But before we do that, we have a review I want to read. This is from Steph Lee. She said, A+, the wealth of information and knowledge that is being shared makes me feel more powerful as this firm takes root. Well done. Thank you. You guys, we really appreciate those 5-star ratings and written reviews. They really help bump us up in the podcast recommendations. There's still 100,000 SLPs who need to find us, and that's one way they can do it. So if you haven't yet, maybe pause, go rate, review. We appreciate it. I'm going to hand this off to Preston because he is from Arkansas. We've got guests from Arkansas. Preston, do you want to set this up a little bit? Why do we have Arkansas guests today?
Because we have our first speech therapist that is now practicing and is Medicaid credentialed in Arkansas, and he does not, drum roll, have the CCC. And it's exciting because now, even though the FIRST SLP map doesn't identify Arkansas as requiring Medicaid, requiring the CCC for Medicaid, Arkansas by practice has always been asking for CCC cards every year. A group of speech therapists got together several months ago. We reached out in a great email effort, some former classmates of mine in graduate school. Yeah. And when we had that reach out, we received a very positive response from the state, which is we recognize that our credentialing system, the actual laws that exist in Arkansas don't require the CCC, and we have been improperly doing this. We're going to change it, and next year there is going to be a policy change that we're going to rewrite. Okay, that sounds fine. Sierra reached out from Wolf Wellness in Holiday Island, Arkansas. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
And she said, look, I've got a speech language pathologist, Zane Rankin, who is trying to onboard with us. And we have applied to Arkansas and we've gotten a denial because he doesn't have an active CCC. And so is there anything that the fixers can do? And so using some of those same contacts from when we had reached out to Arkansas Department of Human Services, I reached back out again and I said, you know, since we're going to change this rule, what about if we have somebody who's already there? Since they're acknowledging that they're not applying it correctly already, got a response back within, I think, the same day, which was, yes. And the question was this, and this is where the policy in Arkansas is going. Has he ever had a CCC? Well, I reached back out to Sierra. The answer was yes. And so suddenly my mind starts spinning. I called Jeanette and I said, how do we find out? What's the record? And we actually have a letter, which is kind of cool, from ASHA verifying that Zane had a CCC. And so we put all this information together. We zipped that off to Arkansas DHS and we got an approval pretty quickly. How was that? How long did that take, Sierra?
It only took 24 hours after I emailed your contact letting him know that we had submitted the C's. So it was pretty awesome. I mean, it was streamlined, super fast. It was great.
And now it's my pleasure. Zane, you're with us and you have completed the journey. You've made it. How's it feel?
I'm going to tell you, it feels fantastic. You guys have given me back my professional life, which really was stripped away from me pretty unceremoniously. It was life-altering in the worst possible way. And this has been life-altering in the best possible way. I want to thank every one of you because you've all helped me tremendously. And I thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. We're happy to do that. That's what we're here for. I mean, and it was a great success. Jeanette, I mean, she was floored the day I sent her this information, and she texted me right away. I think you had a few tears that day, didn't you, Jeanette?
I think that day I was sick, but right now I am in fact crying. So
Mission
I'm like,
accomplished.
don't cry, don't cry. But the FIRST SLP is the only thing that makes me cry. Yeah.
So, Zane, I want to go back a little bit. You
Yes,
had
sir.
the C's at one time,
Yes, sir.
and tell me a little bit about, what's been going on with you the past few years and the circumstances of how you fell out of those.
Well, it's kind of a long, convoluted story. I'll distill it. I had some health problems. I was diagnosed with depression a good while back and was promptly put on medication. Well, the medication had a terrible side effect. I immediately began to put on weight. I mean, that day, and I've never stopped. My weight doubled within 2 years, and then kept going. So I started having issues with my joints, my knees, and so forth. And then I was falling often. And I was working with small children. And at that time, I was considerably larger than I am at this point. And I was a danger to myself and to my clients, to my patients, So the doctor said, listen, we're just going to have to sideline you. He said, this will probably be temporary. And well, it turned out it wasn't so temporary. Things just progressively got worse. But anyway, I got put on a medical hold by ASHA, and apparently it's only there's a 10-year cap on it, which I reached. But I was never alerted that there was a 10-year cap. So I had gone 10 years without having to pay any dues because I was on a medical retirement, as it were. In 2020, in the middle of worldwide COVID, apparently I was sent a letter from ASHA that stated your 10-year exemption is up. You have to pay your dues now. Well, I didn't get it. I mean, if I did, I never saw it. ASHA swears they sent it. I never received it. Mailmen were throwing away bags of mail, if you recall, during COVID. They didn't want to deliver. They were putting bags of mail under bridges and stuff. There was all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Okay. But anyway, that's where I landed. This was the perfect storm. So I missed my payment in 2020. I didn't pay my $230. And they never notified me that I didn't pay. You would think if you were going to take away somebody's professional livelihood, that you would at least send them a certified letter that said, hey, are you sure I received nothing. And I contacted ASHA. I said, gosh, I never received anything, a certified letter letting me know that this terrible thing was about to befall me. And they said, well, in your case, they said, sometimes we send out certified letters. In your case, we didn't feel it was warranted. And I thought, I studied, I worked, I sacrificed 6.5 years of my life to achieve the speech pathologist profession that I have and that I love. And to just have it stripped away like that, oh my gosh, I can't begin to tell you the level of depression that I felt and hopelessness and just my self-worth dissipated. But that's where I was. And that's where I've been. And until I met you, you three have altered my existence in the most favorable way.
I want to point out that a big issue here is that ASHA likely did not find it to be warranted because they don't view what happened as them stripping away your livelihood or your ability to practice, because they maintain that the CCC is optional and that you do not need it to be a speech pathologist, which is true in theory. But in practice, we all know we still have a lot of work to do to make that the truth. And so obviously that's why we exist right now. But yeah, that's why, because they don't recognize the fact that it has become a requirement in many places.
I cannot understand how that little tag can affect my professional life in such a way. Nothing has changed. My education is still the same. I haven't unlearned anything. Nothing has altered. I never had my C's questioned. They were never, I never had a grievance filed against my C. There's nothing there. I've never had a grievance filed against me in any way as a professional. I just don't understand why ASHA chose to be so punitive instead of supportive, which is what their claim is. They are supposedly there to support and uplift and help out SLPs, right? I mean, that's their mission, I thought, but I have my doubts now.
Yeah.
For lack of a canceled check, they were willing to take away my livelihood.
Yeah.
In effect. And I mean, that's when you get right down to it, that's the basic truth. And
But
it's
the
just
minute
wrong.
that they recognize that they did that, that opens them up to a lawsuit, which is why they will never admit what they did to you was exactly that.
Right. Right. And I went through the process. I appealed their decision. I went through the board. It took a long time. And of course, I was summarily denied. They said, we're sticking by what we said. You didn't pay your fee. And so that was how that ended.
That was another thing, you guys, is you guys wanted proof of the C's and that he had his ASHA account and everything. And they could have simply been like, okay, here you go. We're going to email it to you. They made him wait. They said, we're going to mail it. And so he's sitting here waiting on this proof of something that he rightfully paid for and acquired, So that part was a little disheartening to see that the organization would put him through that. But then he also went in front of the group and, submitted, I think, a formal letter trying to get some kind of reconsideration. And again, they just left him in the dark for so long just to finally, he approached me later and we were still kind of in the in between, like, is Medicaid going to go ahead and do this before 2025 or are they not? And he, after waiting, I think they made him wait a good 2 weeks, maybe longer, just to tell him, no, we're not even going to consider it. We're not, basically, thanks for your submission, but no, thank you, kind of thing. And that was, it's not even me personally, and that sucked to hear. So
they charged me $35 to send me the letter stating that I had my C's. They charged me $35.
Really?
They told me 7 to 10 business days before it would arrive. And in 10 business days, I received an email.
Wow.
With
an
my
electronic
letter
copy
that I paid $35 for.
$35 for a
and
letter. Oh. So contrast for a moment, because you did go through the process of getting your state license. I'm sure it went through an inactive period, but you got that brought up to date with the Arkansas Speech Therapy Board.
Brought it up to date.
So it sounds
Correct.
like you had a very successful process there. Kind of balance, or kind of contrast those two for me, if you will, the ASHA experience versus the Arkansas Speech Therapy Board.
Polar opposites. ARCSHA, the state board here, has a requirement of 10 continuing education units, per year. And then they had a maximum of 50 units that had to be caught up if you had been out of the loop, as I was for a time. So that's what I did. I completed 50 CEUs to get my state license current, which they did with no problem. I paid my fees. I performed what was required of me, and my license is active, current, and good. With ASHA, I asked to do the same thing. I said, well, can I pay my fee and get this right? What can I do to get? And they said, well, no, you're going to have to retake. You're going to have to go take the praxis again. That's your only option. If you want your C's back, you have to take the praxis. Well, I mean, that's an option. But let's be honest, the praxis is difficult. It was difficult when I just got out of grad school a quarter of a century ago. It's tough. It's an option, but I don't understand why I would have to retake something that I had already earned, that had never been taken away from me, that I had not lost, except through the inaction of paying $230 at the appropriate time. And that was enough for them to remove my livelihood. I
You
mean,
fell
really,
out of the
it's
pyramid marketing scheme, apparently.
well, it's the only thing I've trained for. And when they took away
Right.
SLP from me, I didn't I didn't have a viable option to support my family. And I just cannot tell you the emotional stress and this has just been so awful on the one hand and so wonderful on the other. I mean, boy, I have been through the gamut of emotions. And to think, I went in to work out. I wanted to work out. And so I walked into this little gym in my little town that I live in to work out. And I just noticed that there was therapy going on in there. And I said to the receptionist, wow, I didn't know you guys did therapy up here. And she said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm a medically retired speech pathologist. And she said, well, how retired are you? And I said, huh, I don't know. What's going on? And then she said, well, you ought to talk to Sierra. And I did. And here we are. It's just been incredible.
So when you talked to Sierra, did you disclose that you had lost your C's? Well, and you didn't lose your C's, that they were
I
like,
didn't lose them.
yeah, that they were, what do we even call
Stripped,
what happened to you? Stripped?
unceremoniously stripped is how
Okay,
I
yeah.
refer to it. That's
Did you
how it
tell
felt
her
to
that you
me.
were unceremoniously stripped? What did you say to
I
her?
did. I did. I said, I have an issue. I found out that because when I went to get all current, I was going through all the checks and processes, and of course I got to ASHA, and then that's when my world, just kind of turned upside down when they hit me with that and just said that, well, you can't work.
Sierra, what did you think when he told you that?
So, I mean, he was very upfront about his position, and he was actually, so eager or so excited to potentially get back into the field that he even discussed maybe doing a tech position because that's the option that he was in. We couldn't be reimbursed for his services because we couldn't credential him with Medicaid. So he was so willing, he applied as a tech. And of course, I pursued the Arkansas Medicaid credentialing without the C's in hopes that they could match the Arkansas state guidelines as they are currently, because he is a licensed professional and he did deserve that reimbursement in that position versus, simply being a tech. Actually, a big thank you goes to you guys. When I did the credentialing application for Zane, we automatically got hit with just the basic requirements say he has to have his C's and the underwriting. It didn't go past underwriting. It didn't go to anyone up top that was able to review and go, well, hey, this doesn't actually match Arkansas guidelines anymore. So I reached out to, pretty sure Preston got with me right away, or not right away, but fairly quick. And then he got me a contact to somebody with the Arkansas Medicaid group. And had it not been for you guys, I mean, I was hitting that wall every time, even when you call in to Arkansas Medicaid and you talk to credentialing, basically, hey, it's a requirement, it's on our checklist, it's not going to go through. With your guys' help, we were able to get him into a much better situation. So
And I,
Credit to you, Sierra, because a lot of people in hiring positions would have just said, oh, well, and moved on, but you really kind of stuck with it. And that's a credit to
Yes.
you. I'm really wanting to know also, how did you find us? How did you find Fix SLP?
yeah, I've been dying to ask that question too. Who found us?
okay, so I do have to also name drop and share our other speech therapist. Her name is Melissa Cusick. She had been following you guys or had known of your website, and she is the one that clued me in, when I brought it to her attention, like, because in our area, licensed professionals are harder to come by, right? That or they have to travel from pretty far and make a commute to work for us. So she was dying for some help. We just had a very full caseload, and I had told her about Zane and said, but hey, he may only be able to tech for you, which means you still have to work those full days, et cetera, et cetera. And she's the one that said, hey, look, it's actually not an Arkansas state requirement. And so with Medicaid being Arkansas based, maybe you can push through this. Maybe there's somebody at FIRST SLP that can help you. And that's when I went to the website. There's an inquiry tab. I clicked on that. It did take a couple days to get a response there, but then they got me connected with Preston. And once Preston got back with me, we were able to move forward. And yeah, I mean, the rest is history. And I mean, it really is history. Zane is groundbreaking for the state of Arkansas, and it sounds like for several speech therapists.
Yeah. And I made a face our listeners can't see when you said it took a couple days to hear back. That was me. And you're lucky it was only a couple days, because sometimes people wait 5 weeks for a response, because I had a really hard time keeping up with the emails. I was so proud the other night that I had it down to like 17 unanswered emails, and then the next morning it was back up to over 30. So
well, yeah,
it was fate that I was answering emails whatever day that was.
I'm sure with the volume, if you're the only one responding or one of few people responding, I'm sure it's hard to keep up with.
I'm the only one. Yeah.
I was, just on the website, and just with the little knowledge I had, I right then I was like, this is a shot in the dark. Like there's no way somebody's going to get back to me. And when they do, like, what are they really going to be able to do? But I mean, collectively as a group, we pushed the envelope and we made it happen.
I think sometimes it's just about having an alternative. And I sort of, when I was thinking earlier about the Arkansas Speech Therapy Board versus ASHA, and this is one of the biggest benefits, I think, to trying to detangle ourselves from this national sort of, credential that's posing as a license sometimes, is that we have exceptions in life. We have things that come up. There are medical issues. There are sometimes where people may have to move out of the country for a while, or they have to care for a loved one. And if you're calling somebody who's in Rockville, Maryland, and you're trying to make a case for that, there's no meeting that you can go to. There's no process that you can really walk down. But in Arkansas, we have a speech therapy board that has regular meetings. If Zane had wanted to drive to Little Rock and meet with them to work this out, if he had to, didn't have to, but if he had that option at least, and we don't have that. And so sometimes it feels like you're dealing with this cold, impersonal phone tree. Is that how you felt, Zane?
It is, exactly. It's difficult to speak with someone. You get passed off quite a bit, shuffle around, and you feel like you're giving canned answers a lot of times. And I'm certain that that's true. I'm sure there are legal requirements that involve that sort of thing, but I don't know. I just wish it was more personal and more supportive. Like I felt ASHA was more punitive than supportive. At least in this instance, for my perception. I'm not down on ASHA. I don't hate ASHA, but I think they dropped the ball in this case. I think they could have done better.
Yeah.
And I hope they do from here. I hope that somebody wakes up and realizes, you have people's lives in your hand. It's not just a job. It's part of your life. It's who you are. I'm a therapist. It's what I do. It's what I love. I get pure joy from working with the kids that I work with. It gives me pure joy in my heart, and it keeps me young and active. And I missed that, and I needed that, and it was taken away from me. And but the reason I'm here is because of the three of you, again, have just given me back my professional life and more of my personal life than you realized. It's really had a positive impact in my life to be able to work and interact and feel like I'm doing something besides taking up space.
So have you started already? Are you exercising this credential yet?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have been working. I have been having a great time. I've got a schedule, and I hope it just grows and grows. I love where I work. I love wolf therapy. I'm not going to lie. I feel a loyalty and a sense of purpose with Wolf because, as Preston said, Sierra could have just said, that's a lot of trouble. We're not going to mess with that. He's a guy, he's older. That couple of strikes against me may be right there. She didn't see it that way. She worked with me. You worked with me. And I am working. I am seeing kids. I am a therapist again, and I could not be happier.
I'm gonna make a little joke here that if you don't follow our content closely, you might not get, but we have listeners who are gonna understand this question. I need to know how it feels to have a place of employment that has a yoga studio in it.
I'm going to be honest. I don't do a lot of yoga. I probably should. But as much as I get up and down on that floor, no, it's cool. It's cool.
Sierra probably doesn't know. Sierra, the ASHA building that is where headquarters is in Maryland is many spaces are up for rent. But also it has a yoga studio in it. So we have this huge building with very few ASHA employees and a yoga studio. So that's what our dues go towards.
Yeah, majority or about 50% of that workforce is working from home at any given time.
Yeah.
I did not understand that.
Okay. You gotta click a little harder on those.
Well, you see, but we have exercise and we have so many things going on,
yeah.
No, I did not realize that you were referring to that. No,
yeah.
that makes perfect sense to me.
It's gonna be the joke next to also, if neither of you might follow this, where they once told us to cry in our cars to relieve stress and anxiety. So
was that during COVID?
I think it might have been.
It was.
It was in an
Because
article.
I feel like I've even heard that.
Or right before, and it was supposed to be tongue in cheek, but it just fell flat.
Yeah, there's nothing funny about that.
No.
Well, it was probably too real at the time.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. And then in some of our email correspondence saying, I'm going to read this to everybody. I pointed out to you, you really have saved a lot of money by not having your C's. And of course, it wasn't on purpose. You would have never elected to let those C's go, I assume.
Never.
Zane is, and see, Zane, you guys can't see Zane, but his picture will be up tonight. He's not old. He came up in a time where you had to have your C's to practice as a speech pathologist. And so this verbiage that we hear often is, you worked hard for your C's, don't let them go. Zane actually did work hard for his C's because he came up in a time where not every state had a state license. So, you would have never let it go, but by not paying that $225 for 10 years, that was $2,250. If you wanted to go ahead with their plan and reinstate your CCC, that would have been $375. You would have had to pay $146 for the praxis. And so all of that, you saved $2,271 right there. And because it's been a minute since you've been in grad school, if you did decide you wanted to take that praxis again, which, Zane, I've failed it. It's not that bad to fail, but but if you wanted to try, you probably would have had to purchase some kind of review course or a review book. So there would have been more costs on top of that. But with that excluded, $2,271 is what you saved. And that's something to think about too, because a lot of people, you didn't let it go on purpose. This wasn't a choice, but people who choose to stay at home and raise their children and then want to go back later, and they're paying that CCC almost like an insurance. Like, what if I want to go back someday? It might be worth, paying the little bit of money to let it go. And because you start getting into this savings after a bunch of years, that paying that much money might not be worth it. You could just actually take the praxis again, study a little bit. And I always say too, you need to have more, now you're in, you don't have to retake it, but you need to have more confidence in yourself, because if you've stayed up in the area where you practice, you are at least 50% ready for that test, because you pass that thing out of grad school with very little information in your brain and no actual real experience. And I see students pass it all the time who don't know what they're doing. So if a practicing clinician has kept up they should be at least 50% prepared, and then you just got to brush up on the rest. So I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit because of kind of a spirit of fear. A lot of SLPs live in fear. And so we shouldn't have to be afraid for something like that, but it's awesome. And it's also good that Arkansas didn't make you retake it, because I didn't hear you say that you had to.
No, Arkansas was very accommodating in getting my license up to date. And, I did everything they asked, and they gave me my license promptly, no fuss, no muss, which was wonderful. And if ASHA could have done the same, I wouldn't be here right now.
So Sierra, is Wolf Wellness mainly billing Medicaid? Is that why it was such a problem? Because he would have been able to bill other insurances.
At the time of Zane's application and when he approached us, we were moving into our summer months where Melissa, our first speech therapist, she was doing school-based therapy for us and was really wanting a break and transitioning, wanting more adult patients. And our main one to move forward was Medicaid, because he was taking up seeing Melissa's pediatric caseload at the time. So I just simply breeze through the enrollment applications. I haven't actually, if I'm being 100% honest, I haven't actually fully submitted to any other insurance. So I just assumed, with Medicaid denying me initially needing the C's, I assumed it was the same scenario.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now we just have Zane working with kiddos, but he did want to move forward with a more full-time position. So as our adult caseload grows, of course, one of my jobs at Wolf Wellness Center is credentialing, and we accept all insurances. We always have. So definitely going to move forward with Medicare and all the others, just to see, if we run into any more roadblocks or if Medicaid was our only one.
Yeah, let's keep staying in touch about that stuff so we can keep reporting it to people, because
this is our passion. If you run into any obstacles whatsoever, call Jeanette or email me. I'll grab my lance, and like Don Quixote, we'll just take out after the windmills.
Well, can I throw a question at you guys? I'm sorry, Sierra, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Well, a question popped in my head for Jeanette and Preston. What was the impetus for you to get this ball rolling here? I mean, what got you started on this mission?
How much time do we have? We've shared it a couple times, so I'll try to make it a quick story. There's been a lot of upheaval in the field of speech pathology over the last, 4-ish years, with ASHA kind of taking punitive actions on people who really didn't do things for certain reasons. And, people serving cease and desist letters to others in the field, and ASHA not doing anything about it. And I've just kind of sat back and watched all of this happen and thought, we really need a place to have grassroots movements to put these kinds of things out through a centralized place. And I kind of had this vision, and it came to be Med SLP Advocate. So I started a platform and kind of had this vision to do something like that. In the process, I got connected with a bunch of other SLPs who are just like trailblazers in the field doing awesome things. And we did some research. We did something called the SLP Data Initiative, where we put out a survey. We had over 7,000 respondents, over 5,000 completed the entire survey, and then the rest just partially. And we were able to see what people thought were strengths and weaknesses in the field, so we could kind of start putting out reasonable solutions to the problems people identified. And in that process, with a colleague, we started exploring that more. And we started learning about ASHA and their ability to take action or not take action through all of these events. And we kind of landed on the fact that the CCC is a product and that they are a business. And because of the FTC and the Sherman Act and all of these other things, that sometimes they can't take action. Literally, the federal government is protecting them. And so we started exploring that more. And we started learning this and couldn't help but share it, and it just started going viral. We established in September, hasn't even been a year, and now we have pretty darn close. We're at about like 47,000 followers across Facebook and Instagram, I think. Pretty darn close to 50. I'd love to see 50 by 1 year just for fun. But yeah, we do it for free, but we have sustaining partners now who pledge like $5 a month or more to help us pay for the platform and the subscription. And there, there's a lot of cost now. We're making some movements in Michigan where lots of SLPs have been sending mail to their state representatives. So we've been funding the postage on that. And so it's just, it's been a whirlwind, and there was never a plan for this, but I guess it was more of a like some injustices were recognized, and in looking for solutions on how to stop these things from happening, there was just a lot of personal growth and learning. And how can you not share that when you feel like you're being duped, really?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
thank goodness for you.
So,
Thank
and
you.
of course, we were already going viral, but of course, then when ASHA announced that they were raising their rates in February, it just, the crowd went wild. And so somewhere in there after February, Preston started making these profound posts on Facebook that I couldn't help but notice. And so we connected and talked to him about possibly consulting here and there. And now, like, how can you not love Preston? So he's just a formal part of the team. And as an old radio guy, fits perfect in on this podcast. And yeah, things are just falling into place. So that's kind of how this started.
I'm just a recovering politician that's trying to look out for the working class therapist. That's basically it.
Well, thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah.
We're excited. That's great.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to ask or say? I mean, we're just delighted. This has been like the most fun I've had doing a pod. Yeah.
Preston, did you say you're an old radio guy?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of sports broadcasting back in the day. I was did a lot of basketball, football, University of Arkansas Little Rock, University of Arkansas's women's basketball team.
Yeah.
That was
your voice sounds very familiar. I'm an old DJ from back in the late 70s.
Right.
I was a disc jockey way back when,
Okay.
up in Batesville, Arkansas.
Independence County.
Yeah, Independence County. That's right.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that radio bug, it still kind of bites now and then, and
it's hard to get out. Yeah.
But I often say I have a face for radio too.
Well, the same. Exactly.
That explains both of your professional looking microphones.
Oh,
right.
I do a little podcasting every now and then, just different things, and not so professional.
Sierra, are you a speech language pathologist, or what's your role in the Wolf Therapy Clinic?
So I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm a health and wellness administrator and a billing coding specialist. I'm the office manager and do all of the admin for Wolf Wellness Center.
And why don't you tell us about Wolf Wellness Center? Because I've looked on the website, so I know about it, but most people aren't going to know. And it's kind of a cool concept.
Yeah. So Wolf Wellness Center and 24/7 Fitness is outpatient therapy, so occupational, physical, and speech. We have a 24/7 fitness center, which is really great when it comes to the rehab side of things for our post-op patients and our stroke patients, because as they start to progress, we can actually transition them over to the gym instead of saying, hey, here's a workout program, try it out on some equipment, figure it out. We actually get to take them over there their last few visits and really implement their home program on the equipment. So then we're never just scooting somebody out the door, just unknowing, what's next for them. But we also provide school-based therapy in Berryville School District, and we've done that for 8 years now. And then we have the awesome wellness amenities. So we've got a full spectrum sauna, a infrared, it's full spectrum infrared, and then a red light therapy. The full spectrum infrared sauna, we actually are even able to use as like an additional modality for some of our patients. So we have some neuropathy patients that once they're in there 3 days a week, they can really tell a difference. We also have a program for, oh, why is it slipping my mind? Fibromyalgia. There we go. We have a program for fibromyalgia, and it includes the full spectrum sauna. So yeah, Sheila Wolf, the owner, has really keyed in the importance of the exercise, but also some of the treat yourself wellness amenities too. And we kind of use that with a large majority of our patients that come here. And then aside from the main clinic in Holiday Island, where Zane spends most of his time with Wolf Wellness Center, is our pediatric clinic. It's in Eureka Springs. And we have, I want to say, close to 35 kiddos on caseload that they see and impact their lives with developmental delays and things like that. So we're just all around trying to touch the lives of everyone in Arkansas. So.
And Holiday Island, that part of Northwest Arkansas, is really a gorgeous, probably one of the prettiest parts of the state. I'm
Beautiful.
overdue for a visit to Northwest Arkansas. So, Zane, Sierra, I'm going to give you a call. Let's have a cold drink, and I'd love to meet you guys in person.
Preston, come see us.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will take you out on the lake and let you see some of the sights around here. I mean, every drive you think, gosh, it's a curvy long drive. I mean, we don't live really close to a whole lot, but once you get on the drive and you're looking around, I mean, everything is beautiful here.
Oh, it is.
35 kids on caseload is not, I know that's not a lot relatively speaking to what some of our school SLPs manage, but that just putting the number 35 with the word kids gives me a lot of anxiety. I'm a adult medical person. 35 kids might kill me. So good for you for
That's actually, and that's in addition to our full caseload, over 100 kiddos at the Berryville School District. So we've got an occupational therapist, our speech therapist, and one of our occupational therapy assistants that they work all day in the schools during the school year, and then they come and they see a few kiddos at the outpatient clinic. So, I mean, their patience and their kindness is just unmatched.
awesome.
We're happy that it worked out. We're happy that we increased access to care in
Yeah.
the natural state, and we're excited. And guys, I just want to stay in touch. That'll be great.
Yeah. To both of you, congratulations for being us. Like, I feel like you're more elevated than a fearless fixer. We need to come up with another name. You're like the king and queen fearless fixers. Amazing work. Thanks for trusting us to help you with this process, for reaching out. It was so overwhelming to hear this news and just so exciting because helping people and making impactful changes is what keeps driving us. So hearing from you and getting this good news it just keeps us going. So thank you. Thank you for
Well,
being coming on and just doing this, even willing to take your hour of your time to be on the podcast too is
yes,
so
ma'am.
appreciated.
It's my pleasure. And I would like to personally thank Wolf Wellness for taking a chance on me. I would like to thank FIRST SLP, which I was unaware of, but now consider me an advocate, a strong advocate for FIRST SLP. And I will be wanting to know more about the organization and how I can help moving forward. Absolutely.
You guys are the trailblazers.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
I did nothing. I was just I was pulled along blissfully. I feel like I didn't do anything. I honestly didn't know what was going on for much of it. I had no idea that I was recoverable. And gosh, I just cannot thank you enough. Wolf Wellness, Sierra, Sheila, Jeanette, Preston, FIRST SLP, you guys, wow. I can't say enough good things about you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, with that, everybody will say thanks for fixing it. Sierra, is your mom, is she a member of the, like, is it MB Cot?
Yeah, the MBCOT, yeah. So I mean, we like clockwork renew and everything. We've never had a situation where they are unwilling to reach out to us. We're busy. Her and I both stay very busy. So I'm very grateful that they send their emails, they send their letters, you know, they keep us up to date. But thankfully, nothing along those lines have happened for her, even during the
Well,
COVID
it's
time.
not required. That's the thing, is that
Oh yeah.
in PT, OT, and speech, the only other thing that is even somewhat comparable is that certification, but from MBCOT, but it's not required like the CCC is, and it's not sold by, is it AOTA?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, yeah, it's not sold by AOTA, it's sold by another organization.
That
And
must
so,
explain why I couldn't wrap my brain around what
yeah,
Zane was telling me at first. I'm like, so you have a license? And he's like, yes, I have an active license. It's right here. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, like what, how could they put you in this position, you know,
Yes.
just over a certification? Like
yeah,
you did
that's all it
your
is.
Yes.
schooling, you know, you have your professional license. And so that
The whole
must, you
thing.
know, my understanding for what's quote, you know, like what's truly required and not required, I'll be honest, I do the paperwork and the billing, but in my mind, you know, because I'm more familiar with the OT things, when he said, you know, I have my license but not my C's, and it's causing me this big hiccup, I'm like, you know, why? I didn't have quite a knowledge and understanding. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
is
that makes more
literally
sense.
just a certification. Like,
And
I
and I
I,
would dare to say that probably at least still 50% of our field is just, after 3 generations of just kind of being ingrained within us, there's still so much of our field that just still doesn't understand that. They think that is their license.